of the national anthem of Jamaica. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Allow me, first and foremost, to acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Ambassador Alison Stone-Roof, Director General, Acting Director General of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Ms. Leisha Delati-Badir, Acting Deputy Director General, Dr. Natalie Simpson. Also in our midst, we have one of the Chief Technical Directors in the MNS, Mr. Delroy Simpson, Chief Technical Director, Ms. Shauna Trawers, Chief Technical Director, Mr. Michael Morgan, all other heads of agencies and representatives. I see my good friend and colleague at the Department of Correctional Services, Dr. Mark Thomas. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, one and all. It is a very important moment for us to be launching the 2023 Jamaica National Crime Victimisation Survey Report. I think it is, in its own right, a celebration of strategic partnership. The importance of strategic partnership, working together to close knowledge gaps. It is so often in mainstream media and on social media, people just say things which have no bearing in fact. They just say things about crime or say things about violence, which you can easily say, but the latest statin data suggests that what you are saying is false. But they say it anyway. And so it behoves all of us to be armed with the numbers. It behoves all of us to have the data at our fingertips. And that's why the partnership is so key, because Statin is so good at what it does in terms of generating the data that we need to plan, that we need to focus and execute on the tasks at hand. And so I look forward to hearing what the numbers are this year. I look forward to hearing from various stakeholders from their vantage point how they are viewing these numbers and looking forward to using them. And so at this time, it gives me great pleasure to invite the Permanent Secretary, Ambassador Alison Stone-Roof, first to bring a welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Let me begin by my salutations, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang. I have Board Chairman, not sure Mr. Stennett is here yet, Robert Stennett, Board Chairman Statin, Director General Statin, Ms. Leisha Delati-Badir, Deputy Director General Statin Dr. Natalie Simpson, Chief Technical Directors in the Ministry of National Security, Ms. Shauna Trowers and Mr. Michael Morgan, Executive Director of the Citizen Security Secretariat, Ms. Diane McIntosh, Deputy Commissioner of Corrections, Dr. Mark Thomas, other senior members of staff at the Ministry of National Security, and other entities, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The pleasure is mine to welcome you to the launch of the 2023 Jamaica National Crime Victimisation Survey. And today marks a significant milestone in our collective efforts to better understand the complexities of crime and victimization in Jamaica. It is a matter of public record that we are making steady progress with the significant decline in major crimes, including murders. However, we are not going to be complacent, as there is a lot of work still to be done to achieve even further reductions. Therefore, the need for evidence-based policymaking and holistic approaches to social problems has driven the demand for the Jamaica National Crime Victimisation Survey and other research products by the ministry's research branch. Specifically, this survey helps to bridge the gap between reported and unreported crimes while providing a more accurate picture of criminal activities across the country. They represent a very critical step towards developing effective crime-fighting strategies to prevent and respond to victimization and ultimately to create a safer and more just society for all. I must extend heartfelt gratitude to our partners from Statin. Your efforts in designing and executing this study in a manner that ensures the reliability and validity of its findings will strengthen our collective ability to further develop our crime prevention policies and programs, all aimed at reducing crime, increasing public safety, and decreasing fear in our citizens. We will continue to strengthen this meaningful partnership as we work together to create a peaceful Jamaican society. To our survey respondents, we are grateful for your willingness to share your experiences. Your voices matter, and your participation will inform policies and programs that can make a very real difference in our lives. Indeed, we are committed to the safety and security of our people, our communities, and by extension, our country. As we look forward to delving into the findings and recommendations, I would remind you that this survey is a testament to the power of collaboration and the importance of evidence-based decision-making. I urge you to engage in meaningful discussions and to ask questions as we aim to develop long-term solutions to eradicate the crime and violence scourge that we continue to grapple with in our society. Ladies and gentlemen, our efforts are not in vain. Continued hard work and commitment will definitely assist us in establishing a more prosperous and peaceful Jamaica. Well done, colleagues. I thank you.
Thank you very much, PS. At this time, I'm going to move straight into inviting some remarks, and the first remarks that we will hear will be from the Acting Director General of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. She is Alicia Delati. But dear, put your hands together for her as she comes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I know we can do better than that. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Ambassador Alison Stone Roof, to my Deputy Natalie Simpson, Mr. Delroy Simpson, CTD in the Ministry of National Security, Mrs. Shauna Chowers, and Mr. Michael Morgan. Good morning to you all, specially invited guests. It is my honor to welcome you to today's launch of the 2023 Jamaica National Crime Victimisation Survey. This launch is demonstrative of Statin's continued partnerships with other public sector agencies to produce reliable official statistics to inform decision making. As the National Statistics Office of Jamaica, Statin is committed to delivering on our mandate to provide comprehensive data that guides national decision making. As we know, we have our regular work program at Statin, which includes things like the labor force and the CPI. However, occasionally, we do form these strategic partnerships with entities such as the Ministry of National Security to execute surveys to fill critical data gaps. Statin is committed to this process. Now, we have been doing this partnership with the Ministry of National Security for several years, since the first victimization survey was done in 2006. And we have partnered with the ministry on 5 of the 6 rounds of the National Crime Victimization Surveys. In fact, I myself was lead at Statin on one of the earlier rounds. So I know how important this survey is to informing decision making. The results of this new JNCVS will prove essential in understanding crime and its impact on individuals and communities in Jamaica. It builds on previous rounds and provides insights into key trends. Statistics remains one of the key tools in shaping policies that address vital social and economic challenges, including crime and public safety. Therefore, offering data-driven insights will support the development of evidence-based crime prevention strategies. The JNCVS gives us a deeper understanding of crime in Jamaica beyond what is reported, because it allows us to look on the first-hand experiences of the victims themselves. Now, as proud Jamaicans, one and all, I am sure our collective goal is that Jamaica is the place of choice to live, to work, to raise families, and do business. And the JNCVS supports the monitoring of progress towards this goal. Vision 2030, which prioritizes creating a secure and just society, is one area or one way in which the work of this survey will support our collective goal as Jamaicans. Additionally, the JNCVS also produces critical data for the monitoring of Jamaica's progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically SDG 16, which promotes peace, justice, and strong institutions. By assessing trends over time, the JNCVS supports Jamaica's progress in both meeting our global commitments and advancing our national agenda for growth and development. In closing, I want to thank the respondents who took time out of their very, very busy schedules to speak to our interviewers and to tell us about your experiences. I also want to thank our staff for their dedicated hard work in collecting data. As we know, it's getting harder and harder to execute surveys because persons are becoming more concerned about privacy. So their work is not easy, and I want to ensure that we take the time out to thank them for their dedication and commitment throughout this survey. My final remarks before I leave the stage is a call to action for all stakeholders to use the insights from the 2023 JNCVS to inform your decision-making and public safety strategies. This is one step in our journey towards national development. By using data, we are able to make informed decisions, impactful policies and programs, and make Jamaica safer for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. At this time, to also bring remarks, I'm sure is a minister who is looking forward to what the survey will look like when it is casting light on this particular year. A year on a morning he's going to take the lectern when murder is down 35% when compared to this point last year. I expect him to say something about that. Welcome, Dr. Horace Chang, the Minister of National Security and Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dennis is the Chief of Communication. We're going to send him an operation now, that's what. Allow me to recognize, of course, the Permanent Secretary, Ambassador Stoneroof, the Acting Director of Statin, for the institution that conducted the Census survey, and our deputy, senior members of the staff of the Ministry of National Security, CTDs, Deputy Director of Corrections, Dr. Thomas, and all the other distinguished technical staff here to look at the launch of this iteration of Jamaica National Crime Victimization Survey. This, I think, is the sixth iteration of the activity, which is done, I think, every 3 years. Designed to give us a feel of what's happening in the community and the community's perception of our security operations. Of course, by the very nature of the activity, which requires detailed analysis and fieldwork by the statin, the data is somewhat dated, but it still have considerable value in planning, examining outcome of efforts over the period in which it is done, and then look at how we may strategize and move forward. Using data to plan programs and design policy is crucial in the modern world of today, but it has to be, you have to always think ahead. As we say in discussing issues, you have to future-proof your programs, or you can end up in challenges. But the data is still extremely valuable, and I'm very pleased to be here this morning to launch this particular iteration, I think it's 21, 22, and 23, and to commend the teams that conducted this, both from the ministry that guided the process and the statin for the work they've been doing. In fact, not just in terms of the National Crime Victimization Survey, but for the work they're doing in bringing empirical data to bear on national issues and to allow for better planning, development at this stage. There are some interesting features. My Permanent Secretary gave a broad technical review of this crime survey, but there are a number of things we could pause and comment on broadly before. One is that crime victimization is a very sensitive issue, a very emotional issue rather. And depending on when you're on the field, the mood can swing very dramatically. But one of the truisms of the surveys we have been having is that there is in fact a very low level of crime victimization. In fact, it's running near 90%. That will tell you don't expect to be victimized in any way or to be engaged in any criminal perpetration in the next 12 months when you ask them. But we have one of the highest homicide rate. We still have the highest homicide rate in the Caribbean and Latin America region. It's a contradictory position, but that's the reality we have been having in almost all the surveys we've had up to now. And gives some level of truism to the fact that much of our violence is intra and intergang. So many of the people, the population who is not involved in any of the activities within the gangs feel very safe and easy to walk in the community. In fact, we wouldn't have to name them, but when you examine personal violence, housebreaking, which are issues of victimization, some of the safest communities for the population are we have the highest level of homicide. And it doesn't take much to think of them, really, and the population in those areas, but will feel quite safe at home. What is also true in those communities that you don't have many strangers moving into them. Once the community is established, the gangs evolve, they fight with each other, but they protect the community to some extent, and it's an issue that we have to deal with at the national planning level So the data, in fact, indicates that, and we have to see how best to work this. But it does have a number spin-off, beside the fact that it allows for a level of stability in the face of high violence. It also allows us to be more focused in our criminal targeting, because it means if we focus on the gangs, both on a curative and a preventive measure. In other words, if we seek to disrupt the gangs, we can have significant success in impacting homicide and violence, while at the same time, if we move aggressively on the social intervention program within the institutions to look at diverting the young males from entering gangs, we will have the medium-term impact that you want. And this essentially has been the approach of the ministry over the last 10 years. To attack the gangs, we have to ensure that we have an effective, efficient police force. And that was the first charge we gave. There were a lot of debates around it, and this is why I say statistics become very valuable in what we do. That we have to have some strong measures, and there has been work done to demonstrate that state of public emergency is very effective in reducing homicides. One of our young staff members now who just did his, well, there are several young men who are doing studies on it, I find, by coincidence. In fact, one mentioned some of our ministry, and I saw on the phone there were two other young men I had the opportunity to meet. One, in fact, is from my constituency, who are doing deep research on the issue of law enforcement. And there is no doubt that the state of public emergencies in the short term is effective, and the most effective tool in reducing homicides. And has done so not only in Jamaica, but in other Caribbean islands where they have used it. I think the review was done in Trinidad. The same thing emerged in the survey being done. That has to be a short-term measure. We have to put in place a more effective police force, which means expanding numbers. In fact, it was a casual discussion. If you have short 4,000 or 5,000 police officers, it's impossible to track and disrupt gangs. And that was, we established that as part of the government's policy very early, despite the debate. And so that was there about the impact of state of public emergency and what it had. It's in the Constitution. It can be abused, and was abused where we have made changes to the law that our Charter of Rights have some built-in protection against abuse. But the impact is clear and can be examined in all the various studies done. And then we would have to build a police force. And we have to invest in the police force. And in the short term, that has to be the dominant investment, because we have to disrupt the gangs, dismantle them before we can build the community institutions. If you build the community institution without disrupting the gangs, then the gangs actually become beneficiaries of the work you do in the community. And we have, I think, just about that point, we set about transform our police force from being, one, too small, under-trained, under-equipped, and working in extremely difficult conditions. The ministry staff led on that, and it has gone very, very well. And today I think we're at a turning point. We're not complete. We're still investing heavily. But we now have our police force for the first time at establishment level, 14,000 and just about plus or minus 100, which gives the police significant numeric strength in dealing with the many hotspots and criminal gangs across the island. We also have a commissioner of police who is recognized as one of the leading planners in using empirical data to disrupt gangs. It's now accepted. I think there is some work done by some mathematicians using discrete mathematics. I don't know, I'm not going into the details. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm a scientist training, and I know the outcomes. And they have used it effectively in analyzing gangs and terrorist groups. And this police commissioner actually has some skill in that area, and is working with his team to look empirically at the gangs, and they have had significant progress in disrupting gangs. I think the unit in my ministry that analyzed this would say we have reduced the gangs by more than half, and I think that is evident today. But at the point in 2023, it will not likely to be reflected as yet. The 2-year gap we have, I said, provides good retrospective study, an important direction in which we are looking at, and as we launch today, we have to use it in that context. But the basic core data remains fairly intact. Up to then, I think if when we do the one for the next 3 years, which will be next year, I expect to see some differences. My remark on the emotional nature of crime, I'd like to refer to some of the statistics. There are some surveys done, and I have told my friends in Cameron, I mentioned here, when we started the ministry, and we had, of course, when I started this ministry, and we had, we're heading towards 50 plus per 100,000 homicides. The gangs were very active across the country, and of course, there was fear and concern. We set about, we had a couple of states of public emergency, and we set about to take charge of the issues. We weren't able to continue them for the length of time we wish, but we started a number of other things, which is always part of the government policy. But you know, if things are not exciting, or as my friend in politics would say, Mr. Samuda, it's not sexy. Nobody talks about it, right? But from the very first day we get in the government, we established, in fact, before we were in government, that building out the police force to be an effective fighting force against crime was number one part of our policy. We're putting the investment with fixed stations, because you cannot ask policemen to go to a station which has no sanitary facility. And that's a fact. There are many of them without. It's falling apart. He has to take lunch outside, have lunch in a place where Chichi don't drop in the meal. So he walked on the veranda under the nearest tree for shade. And of course, if you give him a computer to use, it would get damaged within 6 months, because the office he worked in, he was better equipped, was hot, uncomfortable, and had no proper desk and no air conditioning. So it was just a totally inefficient system that they were asked to produce in that had to be fixed, because we had to establish order, not charity, to get the basis for social development. And we set about doing it from very early on. We committed to do it, and as we proceed, I think we're seeing results. But I go back there because I think it was back in the 2022 or 2023, when we had launched our ROC project, which was the reconstruction and rebuilding of police station, and it was going very well between the Housing Trust, JSIF, and the ministry. We were breaking ground on our opening police stations almost every 4 weeks. And never published, surveys done show that the Ministry of National Security was looking very good. We were among the top performers. And then Cocoa Peace happened in Clarendon, an incident which the police could do nothing about. Somebody who could be questioned mentally deranged was decided and slaughtered in a most brutal manner, an entire family. And of course, it was said this was a failure of national security. And we just went to the bottom of the pile. Again, back last year, 2024, that's 2022, I think, 2024. They can fact check that, but I think it was about then. 2024, now we had, again, the numbers start going down. And there was coincidence again with the development of the police force, because the numbers start going down just when we started to reach 14,000, over 13,000 police officers. And the other training programs came on stream. They were training in intelligence, in security investigation, the development of technology beginning to impact. And I did say to my friend, Antos, the police officer, it's going to take one madman in Clarendon to kill 5 people. And everybody would say the police is a failure. Of course, they didn't kill 5, they killed 8. And the whole society became totally, I went back in fear again. But fortunately, I think the police was moving in a new direction, and I think we were able to recover some ground much faster at that point in time. And I think I refer to them now because I think we have reached a point where the police has got to what I call the turning point, tipping point, because I expect that although we are not where we want to be, they will maintain a downward trend in the homicide rate from here on, unless something really serious happens to disrupt the police force. Once we complete the investment in terms of stations, infrastructure, communication, and the other facilities we have, we certainly will get the impact we want. It also means that we have to pivot some more. We have been doing a lot of work on the social intervention side, but it will allow us now to focus more heavily on the social side because the public order allows us to get our schools in order. School violence is a serious problem. That's where the recruitment comes from. It means resources besides the school resource officer has to be put in the school and to begin to deal with the families in the difficult communities. But it has to be holistic, just as we did for the police, where we invested in human resources, infrastructure, training, and equipment and modernization. We'll have to look at several of these communities where gangs are recruited and become embedded. The leading gangsters don't stay in the community now. They have enough money to establish their homes elsewhere, and I mean the tragedy of the state of emergency sometimes just passed by as one of the era, but it reflects what gangsters were living in certain areas, and we end up in some tragedy, I agree, but I understand, but that is the nature of it. They have bases in community where they operate from, and they adopt the color of the political party, which is in the particular area. We'll have to get into those communities and rebuild the communities. Ensure they have quality schools, quality public health, quality recreational, and all the activities that lead to a successful community and a healthy community. It will be more challenging, quite frankly, than the level of change we have seen in the police force. The police force is a professional body. All police officers are qualified, educated individuals, and all they want is training, the appropriate infrastructure, and the quality leadership. And I think at this point, the police has all of that. Let me commend the leadership there, the commissioner and his team. What we now need is to give them the support to be consistent and to be committed to the cause and keep it going. The social intervention is going much more difficult, but the reports here are still indicative. There is still a high level of, beside the higher percent of our population that doesn't see themselves being victimized by crime, which tells you that it's still confined heavily to the gangsters. We also have an increasing level of confidence in the local police. And one of the interests we find in there is that people say they feel quite comfortable dealing with the police in the community. But when you ask about the police generally, they condemn the whole police force still. And I expect that 2026 should show me a significant difference, but that was what was out there in 2023. And it has been a consistent reflection. Well, fairly consistent in the surveys. The level of confidence in the local police have increased significantly over the sixth iteration, but national police is still seen in a negative light for some reason, up to now. I think I said it will change, and I can feel it changing. And one other thing that is interesting there is that it said that 71% of the population consider the police corrupt as a general body. I look forward to 26 because I think if we look at some of the statistics, the Minister of Justice tells me every time that some 70% of all court cases are traffic cases. I think the commonest point of impact for the wider community is trafficking. And there's an established kind of legacy out there that policemen seek to take bribes to avoid tickets. And therefore, there's a high percent of that. So the social crimes, which from mass homicide to traffic ticketing, are issues that impact, that the wider public is sensitized to. And as a result of that, you have these perceptions changing rapidly. Hasn't changed for ticketing yet, but we have introduced a new ticket system, and I look forward to the response. There's a standing joke I can't make of it as the difference when a police officer approaches a car now, because the truth is, once he punches the recording machine, the ticket goes in, you cannot take it out. That's the first factor. And there's a whole generation of younger police officers who I call the digital age. It's like they use their ticketing machine like almost like a cell phone or a toy. They enjoy doing it. So it's like it's a part of a game. It's fun. So they're issuing tickets wide scale, and of course they're not collecting any fee for anybody. It's a thing of the past, and I'm sure it should impact on the next survey as you get out there, because it's widespread. The tickets are going. Tickets were being issued before, but the ability to change them, to pull a ticket after it's written on paper base, all of that was happening. And I think that was one of the fundamental challenges that, issue that the public face and consider police officers to be corrupt. By virtue of the transformation, the investment, and change, we have changed that. So in addition to the training and the entire attitude of the police force and their success in disrupting gangs, in apprehending the hardened criminals, they have also seen in their interface to the public significant changes. And we'll be taking steps to do more in that area. It's an area where there's a controversy about cameras. Now, at this point, we will equip the police who deal with the public. I repeat, we will equip the police who interface with the public. That's not a policy that I've veered either. Police who deal with the public will have cameras. And it's have cameras not just because we want to reinforce our public and get the image of the police changed and less thought of corruption, but it protects the police. You're not helping really with the changing the audio. The taximan who sees a police with a camera immediately behaves differently. That's a fact. So we have a problem, and we emphasize that. Taximen used to abuse policemen and then report them to Indicom. We get the classic cases. The policeman put his button in the window, the taximan drive off, pull on the policeman and break his glass and then report him to Indicom for assault. Typical kind of activity that was happening. And the police then gets branded as being abusive. A camera on him protects him. So we have no problem with that. The issue of special operations police is another issue, and I'll discuss another time. But it's not part of the policy for me. It is not standard policy anywhere in the world, you know. And we get battered by our friends from one of our partners. But the fact of life is that we had up to 60 murder per 100,000. When the United Kingdom, which is one of our partners, and our system of government we adopt, and I think still the parliamentary system is one of the better system of government. But it's of interest that when the UK had 34 murders per 100,000 in Northern Ireland, they sent the SAS troops to Northern Ireland. Now, anywhere you go in the globe, the British SAS is the best killers anywhere in the world. Today, the American SEAL team may seek to compete, but that's what they sent to Northern Ireland, not with cameras. They're sent there to deal with conflicts in the community. We were having 60 and 50, and we had to get our policemen trained properly. There are details I could give on that. There are many studies done about the use of cameras. I won't go into that, but this survey, I said, is a good review of the view of the public, which is important in planning and in moving forward. And I think the fundamental statistics, while moving in the right direction, I think could change quite quickly. And I expect to see change will go, but it's still a good guide. And especially as the fundamentals of crime victimization remains in place, the community does not feel, they feel quite safe at home, and their communities and in schools and churches, and the level of victimization is extremely low. We have to maintain that and build on that while we ensure that the criminal actors are taken out of the space they occupy. As we do that, and we understand that the gangsters are the cause and the victims of most of the crime. If we disrupt the gangs, get them off the street, whether in jail or elsewhere, and then focus on the social programs, from Live Good, which is a social marketing tool, to the basic programs of getting the psychiatric counseling, the schools organized to deal with disruptive families, the question of abuse, child abuse, families who are in dire poverty, and communities which are totally dysfunctional. We have to fix them. We can now do so with more confidence that the medium-term solution to our problem will be resolved. And the statistics provided will continue to provide extremely good guidance and data. So I want to commend Miss, let me get her name correctly. I have a director and deputy director of the Statin Institute, and you'll have to read my PS, but Mrs. Lisha Delita Bodier, who is the acting head, am I right? I pronounce it correctly? A little. And Ms. Stacy and Thompson, that's correct, girl. No? Well, however, the leadership of the Statistical Institute, and of course the staff of the Ministry of National Security, which have maintained the country. So Ambassador Stonewall and our team, commend them for the effort and look forward to continue work to ensure we get the kind of data required to provide a certain kind of direction for the Ministry of National Security. If we do it and we follow it in a structured and in a structured manner, through the institutions we have, I think we can get to the point where crime will be restored to what you call an acceptable social level, and we have a much stronger, healthier community and a richer community and a place where everybody will feel safe, not only feel safer, but which they do, and we made the best term because they do seem to feel safe in the communities, but we're less fear and concern for violence in the community, and it provides a foundation on which we can, in fact, build our economy and a much stronger society. Commendation again to everyone involved in doing the survey, and thank you all for the audience. Hope you have a good day.
Q&A session, and I expect it to be a very spirited Q&A because I expect the questions to be very good. At this time, to make the presentation of the findings, which if you've been looking at the numbers, they are very interesting, I'm going to invite the head of the Special Projects Unit at the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Ms. Stacey Ann Thompson, to come to the lectern and make the presentation. Put your hands together for her as she comes, please.
Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Ambassador Alicia Stone Roof, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of National Security, Ms. Leisha Delati-Bader, Director General Acting, Statin, Dr. Natalie Simpson, Deputy Director General Acting, Statin, Mr. Delroy Simpson, Chief Technical Director, Ministry of National Security, Ms. Shauna Trowers, Chief Technical Director, Ministry of National Security, Mr. Michael Morgan, Chief Director, Ministry of National Security, all other heads of agencies and representatives, media, and specially invited guests, good morning. I will be taking you through the findings of our 2023 National Crime Victimization Survey. So, I will start with the introduction, which will include the background and objectives of the survey, the methodology, and then we will look into the main findings, looking at the perceptions of safety, crime victimization in Jamaica. Then we're going to look at details of the most recent victimization experiences in the past 12 months. Then we will look into the indirect exposure to crime, which is persons witnessing crime, fear of crime, crime prevention strategies persons have implemented in their household and personally. And then we will wrap up with our last three sections: public's perception of the awareness, effectiveness, and reliability of our departments and agencies in our national security and justice space. And then we will round it out looking at the public's perception of security measures and social intervention programs, as well as looking at the Live Good campaign. So, the Ministry of National Security contracted the Statistical Institute of Jamaica to conduct the National Crime Victimization Survey for 2023. The JNCVS, as we call it, it's a significant initiative conducted to understand the prevalence, nature, and impact of crime on individuals and communities. The study collects data from respondents about their experiences with violent and non-violent crimes, including property crimes and personal offenses. As you heard earlier, Ambassador Stone said, what's the importance of national victimization studies? We have official statistics. Well, as she said, the police statistics reflects only reported cases or detected offenses, so it fails to capture the full crime spectrum. Crime victimization surveys help to bridge that gap between the reported cases and unreported cases of crime, providing a more accurate picture of criminal activity. We see the importance placed on these surveys, as this is our 6th installment of the survey, 5 of which has been conducted by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. So we look at the main objectives of this round of the survey. So our first objective, to provide data on the types of crimes, including those not reported to the police, which will form the basis for comparisons with previous victimization surveys at the national and international level. We'll provide disaggregated information on crime victimization or criminal victimization, including the demographic characteristics of victims 16 years and older. We'll provide data on the respondents' knowledge of crime prevention initiatives and understand the public's perception of safety of the security agencies, and departments as it relates to their reliability, awareness, and effectiveness. So how was the study conducted? How was the survey conducted? The survey is a household survey designed to provide reliable estimates of victimization at the national and regional levels. One individual per household was interviewed to determine who will be interviewed, right? So the next birthday rule that we use to determine who is interviewed in the household, it's a reliable and accepted selection technique which maintains the randomness of our sample design. And the survey was conducted in 5 main phases. We started with the survey design, sample selection, moved into our questionnaire design and review. That was followed by our data collection process, data processing after, and then we concluded with our data analysis and report writing, and now the dissemination of the information. Our target population for the survey, usual residents of Jamaica living in private dwellings, ages 16 years and older. So for this round of the survey, we adhered to the Latin American and Caribbean Crime Victimization Survey Initiative methodology, similar to what we did in 2019. This methodology allows us to compare our data on an international level. So we're able to compare the crime victimization results in Jamaica throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. Our survey instrument had 11 sections. We started with observing and understanding the household. Then we moved into the socio-demographic data of the household and the individual that we selected to participate in the survey, followed by the public's perception of their safety. We also looked at the performance of the agencies and departments in security and justice. We also looked at crime prevention strategies that persons implemented in their household and personally. After that section, we moved into victimization. Looked at criminal victimization on the household and personal level within the past 3 years. After that, we asked respondents of the crimes that you observed you experienced in the past 3 years. How many did you experience in the last 12 months? And that's section 6.62 C2, So we asked respondents about their personal victimization and household victimization experience in the past 12 months at section C2. C3, we got more details into the crimes that they experienced. So location, time, what was lost, among some other things that we'll go through in the presentation. We closed out with the last 3 sections looking at the indirect exposure to crime. So did persons witness crimes? We looked at the possession of firearms, and we closed out with understanding their awareness of the social intervention programs and the security measures along with the Live Good campaign. So the 2023 JNCVS, we examined a set of core crimes that were classified in 2 categories. We had household crimes, that's crimes against the household that can involve several victims for a single crime. Crimes that we classified under household included homicide, burglary, motor vehicle theft, objects stolen from your motor vehicle, parts stolen from your motor vehicle, as well as motorcycle and motorbike theft. The second category included personal crimes, and these are crimes that are committed against an individual. So only the individual can respond to incidents of these crimes. Okay, all right. Sorry. Apologies. So, crimes under personal crimes included robbery, larceny, extortion, threat, physical assaults and injuries, consumer fraud, and bank fraud. So our survey design, quickly, we used our computer-aided personal interviews. So our interviewers interviewed the respondents in their household face-to-face. Our sample size 3,294. Our response rate was 84.8%. Data collection started in November 2023, was concluded in February 2024. That was followed by a data processing period that ended in April 2024. Our data was weighted to the household, 897,796 households, and we used the 2019 mid-year population number to estimate the total number of Jamaicans 16 years and older. So now we get into the main findings. So in this section, we asked respondents how safe they felt in different places that they normally go to. We found that safety perceptions generally are high. 9 of every 10 respondents felt safe in places that they go to daily or they interact or they visit regularly, including the church, educational institution, in their personal vehicles, at home, and at their workplace. Right? We see no significant change in the perception of safety in 2023 when it's compared to 2019 for these 5 different locations. Right? There were a few locations, though, that respondents recorded a decline in the perceived safety, with the greatest decline observed for banks. We found that 68.6% of respondents felt safe at a bank in 2023 compared to 80.9% in 2019. And also at the ATM on the corner on the street, where 47.2% of respondents indicated feeling safe compared to 56.3% in 2019. So we asked respondents how safe they felt walking alone in their community during the day and the night. We saw where less respondents indicated feeling safe walking alone in their community during the day and the night when we compare our results for 2023 with 2019. So we asked respondents, comparing the year 2023 to 2022, would you say crime has increased, remained the same, or decreased in Jamaica, in your parish, in your town, and in your community? We found that a higher percentage of respondents believe that crime has increased in Jamaica, in their parish, and in the town that they live when compared to 2019, while the number of respondents who indicated that crime has remained the same in their community has remained relatively the same in 2023 compared to 2019. So now we look into crime victimization. So we asked respondents, we gave them all the crimes that I showed you earlier, the 14 core crimes, and we asked them if they had experienced any of these crimes within a particular period, a 3-year period, which was November 2020 to October 2023. So, looking at the household crime, so we asked respondents if they've experienced a household crime within this period. We found where 7% of households experienced a household crime in 2023 compared to 9% in 2019. The crime that most households experienced, burglary. 58.8% of households experienced domestic burglary in 2023 compared to 55.8% in 2019. We saw where 34.5% experienced theft of their motor vehicle, parts or objects from their motor vehicle compared to 41.5% in 2019. So we also asked respondents to indicate the personal crimes that they would have experienced within the same 3-year period. We found that the proportion of individuals who experienced a personal crime has remained relatively the same when 2023 is compared to 2019. Looking at the crimes respondents reported being a victim of, outside of bank fraud and bribery that saw an increase in their victimization levels, all other crimes remained relatively the same compared to 2019. So when we look at bribery, we saw where 10% of respondents indicated that they were a victim of bribery in 2023 compared to 4.7% in 2019. And for bank fraud, 15.6% indicated being a victim of bank fraud in 2023 compared to 8.7% in 2019. So, we asked respondents, of the crimes that you experienced over in this past 3 years, which ones did you experience in the past 12 months, specifically November 2022 to October 2023. We found that 3.5% of households experienced a household crime within this 12-month reference period, compared to 4.4% in 2019. When asked which crime it was, 72% of households experienced a domestic burglary in 2023, and 33% experienced theft of their motor vehicle, parts or objects from their motor vehicle. We asked respondents the same thing as it relates to their the personal crimes they would have experienced. So of the personal crimes you experienced in the past 3 years, did you experience any of these crimes within the past 12 months? We found that 14.2% of respondents indicated that they experienced a personal crime between November 2022 and October 2023, compared to 10.8% in 2019. Again, bribery, bank and consumer fraud saw an increase in the victimization levels in 2023 when compared to 2019. All other crimes saw a decrease. So we're looking now at the profile of the victims of these crimes. So looking at robbery and larceny victims, we saw where 53.4% were females, 51% were between the ages of 16 to 39 years old. And when we looked at the area of residence, whether it's urban or rural, we saw where 56.8% lived in the rural areas. When compared to 2019, we saw where males were more likely to be victims of robbery and larceny at 52.4%, and we saw where victims from urban areas were more likely to be, we saw where respondents from urban areas were more likely to be victims of robbery or larceny. Among the respondents who reported being victims of fraud or bribery, a higher proportion were males, 51.7%, and persons aged 16 to 39 years old. This remains the same when compared to 2019. Among persons who experience acts causing harm or intending to cause harm, this is extortion, threat, physical assault, we saw where 50.2% were males and persons aged 16 to 39 years old made up more of the victims or were more likely to be victims. So now we look in the details of the recent victimization that persons would have experienced. So this is where we get into our crime module, where we would have used our crime module to elicit information from the respondents about the 3 most recent incidents of crime that they had, or 3 most recent incidents of each crime that they experienced. So if they experienced more than 3, we just took information on the most recent 3. We got information as it relates to the time and location of the incidents, items stolen, the extent of their financial loss, was a weapon used in the victimization, methods used to communicate between the victim and the offender in the case of threats, personal injuries, did they report the crime to the police, the level of their satisfaction with how their complaint was handled, and if they did not report the crime, why did they not report the crime? So when we looked at household crimes, we saw where of the victimization incidents that we got details on, 69.4% were incidents of burglary. 30.6% were incidents of theft or of motorized vehicle, parts or objects from the vehicle. When we looked at personal crimes, we saw where 31.6% related to larceny, 23.4% were incidents of threat or extortion, and bank or consumer fraud amounted to 17.8% of all incidents of personal crimes. So we asked respondents what was the extent or estimate of the loss that they had. We realized, or we saw in 2023, where persons were reporting losing more when compared to 2019. 32.5% of the respondents indicating a loss between 20,000 to less than 60,000, and we saw where 19.2% had losses of 60,000 or more. Persons that experienced robbery, physical assault, and injuries or threat incidents, we asked them if a weapon was used in any of their incidents. We found that on 35.9% of these incidents, a weapon was used, compared to 37.7% in 2019. In 54.8% of these incidents, a firearm or blunt object was used in 2023, compared to 42.4% in 2019. Sorry. So we asked respondents, did you report the crime to the police? Majority of our household crimes, or more of our household crimes, 53.8%, were reported to the police. We saw a higher incidence of reporting of household crimes to the police than that of personal crimes. When it relates to personal crimes, 4 of every 10 respondents or less reported the personal crime that they experienced. 40% reported their incidents of threat, extortion, or physical assault. 33.5% reported bank fraud, consumer fraud, or bribery incidents. And 29.6% reported their incidents of robbery or larceny. When we asked the respondents, were you satisfied with how your complaint was handled, we saw where 43.2% indicated that they were satisfied in 2023, compared to 50.5% in 2019. For the persons that indicated that they were not satisfied when we asked them why, the primary reason was that the perpetrator wasn't caught. For the victims that did not report their crimes or did not report their victimization incidents, we asked them why. For household crimes, we found 66.4% of respondents indicated that it wasn't serious enough, I could handle it on my own. When we look at personal crimes, we saw where 35.2% of the respondents indicated that I could handle it on my own. 22.9% said it wasn't serious enough, and 16.4% said the police wouldn't have done anything anyway. And these were the top 3 reasons why they did not report the incident of personal victimization. So now we get into indirect exposure to crime. So in this section, we asked respondents, have you ever witnessed a crime? If yes, did you report it to the police? How many times have you witnessed a crime? So we found that we asked respondents for 4 major crimes only. We found that 9.1% indicated that they have witnessed a serious beating or attack. 8.2% equally indicated that they have witnessed a robbery or shooting or gun battle. And 5.8% indicated that they have witnessed a murder. We asked respondents, how many times have you witnessed this crime? Or how many times have you witnessed a crime? Outside of murder, where a majority of the respondents have witnessed only one incident of murder. All other crimes were observed by more of the respondents, or over 50% of the respondents combined, at least 2 times or more. 59.6% combined indicated that they observed a shooting incident 2 times or more. 66.2% combined indicated that they would have observed or witnessed a robbery, and 64% indicated that they observed a serious attack 2 times or more. So when we asked the respondents, did you report the crime that you witnessed to the police? We found that 12.3% indicated that they reported the crime they witnessed to the police. When asked, why did you not report the crime to the police? Persons who witnessed murder, 51.9% indicated there were other witnesses. For gun battle and robbery, 57.9% and 60.7% indicated that they indicated reluctance as to why they did not report these crimes. When we talk about reluctance, we talk about not wanting to go to court, trying to protect the offender, and the one that we know don't want to be labeled as we know. Exactly. So they didn't want to be labeled as an informer. So those were the reasons for reluctance. And then for serious beating, 49.8% indicated that there were also other witnesses, so they thought there was no need for them to report the crime. So now we get into the fear of crime. So we asked respondents, thinking about what they do on a daily basis, do they think they might become a victim, or they're likely to become a victim of crime within the next 12 months? 6.1% indicated they are likely to become a victim of crime in the next 12 months, compared to 6.7% that reported the same for 2019. We asked the respondents, which crime do they think they might become a victim of? We found that 57% indicated that they are likely to become a victim of robbery, and 30.7% indicated they might become a victim of a vehicle theft. Or other 2 crimes, domestic burglary and larceny, saw a decrease in the number of respondents that indicated they're likely to become a victim when compared to 2019. So we asked the respondents what household security measures they have implemented to help to keep their households secure. We found that persons implemented security grills, started using other weapons like tasers, additional locks, security cameras, and persons started using watchdogs. What is notable here is that the installation of security cameras tripled when 2023 is compared to 2019, moving from 4.3% to 12.7%. We also asked respondents what personal crime preventative strategies have they started doing. So there are several strategies that persons indicated that they started doing, and the primary of which is ceasing the habit of carrying a lot of cash. We saw where 3 in 10 respondents indicated that they have seized this habit. Other habits that they've seized, or the top 5, included they stopped using alternate routes, stopped going home late, stopped going out at nights, and then they stopped going for a walk. So now we look in the perception, or the public's perception, of the authorities' performance. For this section, we asked respondents, are they aware of the functions of the different agencies and departments in our justice and security system? After we asked them that, we asked them if they thought they were effective and how reliable they were. We saw there was an increase in the awareness levels of the functions of all the authorities that were surveyed. Majority of the respondents, 82.1%, were aware of the functions of their local police and the JCF. And when we refer to the local police, we are referring to the police station that is closest in their community to them. We saw where 8 out of every 10 respondents indicated that they are aware of the functions of the Jamaica Defense Force. 60.8% indicated they are aware of the functions of the judges and courts. 54.2% indicated they are aware of the functions of INDICOM. 4 of every 10 respondents indicated that they are aware of the functions of the FLA, MOCA, DCS, and the Office of the DPP, and 3 of every 10 indicated they are aware of the functions of the public defender. So we asked respondents, how effective do you consider the authorities' work? So that was the question we asked them, to look at the effectiveness of the different authorities. So effectiveness perceptions remain relatively the same or increased for all authorities surveyed when 2023 is compared to 2019. We saw the Jamaica Defense Force again coming out on top compared to when we look at 2019 at 92.2% of respondents indicating that it's effective. 85.9% indicated that MOCA is effective. We look at the local police, we saw where 73.4% of the respondents indicated that they were effective compared to 67.8% in 2019. And when we look at the JCF, we see that it has remained relatively the same at 80% in 2023 compared to 78.9% in 2019. So we asked respondents, considering what is required of the authorities, do you believe they are reliable? Reliability scores for majority of the agencies and authorities increased, with a few remaining relatively unchanged. Again, the Jamaica Defense Force is ranked number 1 or has the highest number of respondents indicating that it is reliable at 91.6%. The local police moved from 65.9% reliability score in 2029 to 71.2% in 2023. And we saw where the Jamaica Constabulary Force again remained relatively unchanged from 77.6% in 2019 to 76.4% in 2023. So we asked respondents, what is your perception of corruption within the different authorities? It should be noted that the perception of corruption among all groups increased in 2023 when compared to 2019. The Jamaica Constabulary Force, 71.1% of respondents indicated that they perceived the Jamaica Constabulary Force to be corrupt when compared to 65.2% in 2019. The local police moved from 53.6% in 2019 to 63.1% in 2023. So, closing out, we looked at the public's perception of the security measures that were implemented, so our states of emergency and our zones of special operation. Again, we asked them, are they aware of the functions of these security measures? Are they effective and are they reliable? And then we also looked at the social intervention programs that we have. So we looked at the social intervention programs that we looked at the Victim Services Division, we looked at the Restorative Justice Program, the Child Diversion Program, Peace Management Initiative, or Poverty Reduction Program, and then we looked at or Community Renewal Program, and a relatively new program, Project STAR. When we look at the awareness of the security measures, we find that the levels of awareness has not changed when compared. They remain relatively the same when compared to 2019. When we look at the effectiveness of the security measures, we see where 73% of the respondents indicated that the states of emergency are effective compared to 77.7% in 2019. And when we look at our zones of special operation, we see where 75.4% indicated that they were effective compared to 78.4% for 2019. Looking at the reliability of the security measures, we see where 72.7% indicated that the state of emergency is reliable, and 73.5% indicated that the zones of special operation are reliable. So looking at the social intervention programs that we have, we see where the awareness of all programs have increased when compared to 2019, but they're still relatively low. Same for other community programs, or Community Renewal Program and Project STAR. We found that 1 in every 10 respondents indicated they were familiar with the functions of these two programs. So now we look at our Live Good campaign. We see where there was low awareness of the Live Good campaign at 11.5%. So 11.5% of the respondents indicated that they were aware of the Live Good campaign, and of those that were aware of the program, 36.9% indicated that the ministry's efforts in promoting the campaign was good enough. 51.9% of the respondents indicated that the campaign does an excellent job of encouraging citizens to respect life. 44.2% indicated that the campaign had a positive impact on them. And when we asked them, what is this impact? They said it taught them how to be a good citizen, teach them how to respect others, teach them how to live good. And we see where 47.7% of the respondents indicated that the campaign had no impact. Again, when we asked these respondents why, they said, I'm already a good citizen. I know how to live good with people. I respect my neighbors. When we asked respondents, how do they think we can boost the awareness of the Live Good campaign? The top 3 methods given were radio, television, and social media influencers. So the use of these 3, they believe, will impact and influence or boost the awareness of the Live Good campaign. So I know I've given you a lot, so I'm just going to walk you through some of the key takeaways I want you to have today. So the perception of safety in different places remains the same compared to 2019, except at the bank and the ATM, where safety perception has fallen. A higher percentage of respondents in 2023 believe that the level of crime has increased in Jamaica, in their parish, and in their town. Household victimization has fallen in the past 3 years and the 1-year reference period that we used. Personal victimization has seen a slight increase in the past 12 months, moving to 14.2% from 10.8%. Crime victimization increased for bribery and bank and consumer fraud in the 3-year and the 1-year reference period. There is low reporting of personal crimes and crimes that respondents indicated they witnessed. There is a threefold increase in the installation of security cameras. The effectiveness and reliability scores increased or remain relatively unchanged for security and justice departments and agencies. Perceived corruption is on the rise. And finally, a fairly high awareness of the functions of ZOSO, Zones of Special Operations, and our states of emergency, and relatively high effectiveness and reliability scores. And finally, we still have some work to do with our social intervention programs because the awareness is still very low. So thank you very much for your attention. I'll now hand back over to Dennis.
Can you put your hands together for a very good presentation? A lot of ground was covered. I know that persons may have been taking copious notes, and so you may have questions in the traditional as well as the digital forum. At this time, I'm going to invite Minister. Could you come and take a seat up here? I know that some of the questions are directed towards you or in an area that you would be best to answer. I'm going to ask Ms. Jessica Simpson, Director of Research, Design, and Evaluation. Jessica Campbell. Jessica Simpson is somebody completely different. But this is what I have on the paper. Jessica Campbell. You look nothing like Jessica Simpson. I'm going to ask, I'm going to ask Ms. Philona Mantock, Director of Field Services and former unit head of Special Projects. And I'm going to ask Stacey Ann Thompson, the unit head for Special Projects, to return as well. So we asked you to go over to menti.com and to ask your questions. I think you still can. So the first question is one that I think I'm going to invite you, Dr. Chang, to take. It says the perception of corruption within the JCF has been above 60% in all 6 iterations of the survey and is increasing. Have the MNS and JCF contemplated a fulsome public response to the issue? Dr. Chan?
Thank you for the question. No, we have not considered a fulsome response. We are concerned about the increasing perception, and I did allude to it in talking. So why would we call the thing? Certainly in 2023, part of it was just a significant increase in police activity, which we have had over the last number of years. What been necessarily done is do a subset of interviews and research into what do they view as perception and what the population sees as, whether they interpret the police as being corrupt. And we may have to do that kind of work before we make any response.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. All right. Stacey Ann Thompson, I'm going to put this question to you. The question is simply, what does the response "can deal with it on my own" mean?
Repeat that.
Okay, the question is, what does the response, "I can deal with it on my own" mean?
Hi, good morning. Was that question related
For Stacey Ann.
She wanted me to answer it.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
It just means that the respondent thinks that they didn't need the assistance of the police based on the type of crime. So maybe if something was stolen out of the car, they just replace it. So they can deal with it on their own.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. All right. Here's another question. Since the data is collected at the household level, I have a few questions. When the data is being collected, is each member of the household interviewed or only the head of the household? Stacey?
I'll take that one, Dennis. So we understand that sample surveys are a feature of STATI, right? And we do surveys because censuses are typically very expensive and data collection is lengthy. So when we select samples, first of all, the samples are randomly selected, and they are selected in such a way that it is representative of the population that it came from. So as Stacey would have explained earlier, one member of the household, 16 years and older, is selected to respond to the survey. So the questionnaire is divided into two sections, the household section and the individual section. In the household section, all members who live in the household are recorded along with their age, date of birth, etc. And then one person is selected to respond on behalf of the household to all of the household questions. And then the individual will also respond to the individual questions. So it's those responses that are collated and presented in the results that were presented here today.
All right. Are we able to see a listing of the communities surveyed? It would be useful to compare hotspot listing. I put that to Jessica Campbell.
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. So I know that it would be valuable or useful to do this comparison or to have this kind of data at this level. However, we do not publish data at a level that persons can be identified or communities can be identified. So if it is that when we assess the request and notice that any data that we publish would breach the confidentiality of the respondents, then that data would not be available.
And we can see why. All right, here's a question. Since the data is, alternatively, I think this is one of the follow-up questions. If only the head of the household is interviewed, does that mean only their perceptions are recorded and used to represent the entire household?
No, so the respondents that would be responding on behalf of the household would be responding based on the experiences of the household in general. Because household crimes are crimes that affect the entire household. So if any member experienced a crime that is classified as a household crime, then that would be reported by the responsible person.
Indeed. All right. Minister, this one is for you. Do the police know where the gang members are located in order to make these arrests? Do we use AI with the cameras to find them, or do the police go in and try to find them on foot?
No,
some very operational questions here for you.
That's the commissioner's thing. But no, the police have a good fix on where the gangs operate and where communities and who the gang members are. We don't have the kind of effective area to talk about. That's why we've been discussing on a number of occasions that we are seeking to acquire a C5 center, which will deal with communication, cyber, and that kind of activity, and the big data support for that can analyze and would have the kind of capacity to analyze AI. But the police has a good fix. That's why they're more effective. I know in the last 12 months in particular, who the gangsters are, where they are. The challenge the police face is not so much to go for them, but to, well, they have gone for a number of them, and they have had the issue of the current phase of time, police shootings, as well as what is not known, a significant number of cases have been brought against the targets that were identified. But accumulate that evidence is the challenge the police has. I think the police know pretty much all the players and the field, but to apprehend them, they need to get evidence, and evidence from the high bar in our system. But they have been moving at it. They have improved their intelligence and the training of their CIB officers. There's a course that has been introduced in recent called the High Performance Investigation course for CIB officers. And along with the increased numbers and presence and their ability to pay attention to individual groupings, they have a good fix on where the gangsters are and the violence producers. The challenge is to gather enough evidence. The intelligence is there, but to convert it to evidence to get them in. That has been part of the work of the administration, which has improved significantly. I said Commissioner Blake has a good understanding of that kind of activity and has been training the teams in the area of how to put the evidence together for the individual cases, and it has had significant results, not only in terms of the alleged report, when they get shooting of either side as reported, but there's a significant number of people have been brought into the court system in recent times as a result of that kind of work. That's what is causing the reduction in numbers more than anything else.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would only add to that I get the distinct impression that the police are improving in their capacity, in their intelligence gathering capacity, in their operational capacity, in their investigative capacity, as has been manifest in the number of large gang cases that we've seen before the court, a number of them that we've seen, and I get the impression that the police are taking a very targeted approach where that is concerned, as has been manifest in the number of high-risk targets that have been addressed lately. That is my impression from my own vantage point. My impression. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your question. Oh, we have one more? All right, let me see. All right, the question is, how can or have we simultaneously addressed and improved the perception of corruption within the security forces while enhancing the effectiveness, accountability, and public trust in their operations? Was that answered in your previous response?
No, repeat the question, let me read it.
The question is, how can or have we simultaneously addressed and improved the perception of corruption within the security forces while enhancing the effectiveness, accountability, and public trust in their operations?
I think it's two questions in one. Improving the accountability issue has to do with how we treat complaints, how we treat the reported breaches of trust. And I know that the development of iProbe has gone a long way, even more than Indicom has in the last year. Indicom has always been there, but iProbe has become developed and under command of a deputy commissioner who I know is very rigid in his areas of accountability and will move, in fact, to deal with breaches very effectively. But on the issue of the increased perception, there are a number of issues that impact corruption. Some of them are actually just what was the legacy structure of the force. Let me give an example. We have made significant changes in police station design, literally police station design. And all the new stations you have will see when they're designed, you have a reception area and an interview area separately. The fact is that in the guard room concept that remained there, if a complainant walks to the station, which is a little square for the guard room where they're reporting, then half the people are following him, a whole crowd beside him, especially in issues that are of domestic nature. And everybody listens in. And, once the report leave the station, it is not said that somebody in the crowd reported it. They said the policeman was complicit in cover. So you get issues of trust of police emerging from that. It's a basic thing, and we have that will take time to correct as we fix stations and change that kind of thing. There are a number of other areas you'll find that kind of activity. I said the traffic ticket was one. Everybody believed the traffic ticket policeman was on the take. We have fixed the system. I expect it only, the new ticket management system only became effective and operates at a level that would impact the public in, November of 2024. So that is an issue that is out there. And there are a number of other issues that are literally physical activity in terms of how we structure the force and how we manage the information flowing to the police. That has changed significantly, but again, it has been a recent change. Times have moved pretty rapidly, and we'll have to see how they impact them. But those are obvious deficiencies that had to be corrected. The overall efficiency of the force, in fact, will impact the perception. If cases are reported and they are apprehended and prosecuted, the individual will feel justified. When they are not apprehended, their feeling is that somebody talks, so they mess up the case. So the corruption and accountability goes together. And as the police gets better at what they're doing, you'll find it change. And it can change pretty rapidly too. In fact, if we look at I've said if once you begin to get the apprehension at a high rate, and you get the big players out, as they're now doing in terms of better kind of targeting, not targeting some star boy and kill them off, just finding and identifying the players, you will find that the rate of fall in homicide will be quite rapid, and you'll find the changing attitude also quite rapid. It's and we have to get that kind of information and survey done on a different scale. The 3 areas still have value because it will indicate when the change is sustainable and what have happened over the last year, because issues like corruption is something that will change over time, but we need to track it. And I said we need to do some more work on why do they say corruption is there. While I can point out a couple of obvious defects in the system of policing that we had, or how police operated, there might be other causes, and it'd be good to begin to ask a subsidiary question, why they felt that there was a corrupt practice in a particular case. All right.
Thank you very much, Minister. So in closing, thank you for your questions, first of all. Thank you for your participation and in your interest. And of course, if there are any other questions, feel free to contact Statin, and they will respond via email to the questions that you have. In wrapping up for today, I would say that this is a very, very good report. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for all the people who were involved in putting it together. I think I can say that the integrity of the report is beyond question, and the numbers are worth looking at. Of course, as I began mentioning stakeholder partnerships, we all can utilize the information to our benefit. You can, for the report, you can go and you can scan this QR code and access it. I think that the students of sociology and statistics will benefit greatly from it. And so it is a significant tool in closing that knowledge gap between what is reported and victimization, but also I think it is important in understanding perceptions, because in many instances perceptions are just that. They're not necessarily reality, and there is often a gap between what people perceive and what is on the ground. And so this is a better way to statistically get a sounding from the ground so we can take it for what it is and move forward in our interactions. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for coming to today. I look forward in the reporting of this report, because that is always key, and that is a part of what influences the narratives. It's the narratives that matter. Just to say in closing that many people will say the police are corrupt. And then you ask them, okay, if the police are corrupt, tell me 2 corrupt police. I don't know any corrupt police, but the police somewhere else are corrupt. Or I feel safe in my community, but out there is unsafe. And so it's a greater reflection of our perceptions about otherness rather than what is actually the reality on the ground. So let us use it as the tool that it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. Thank you very much. Take care.